We humans are very different in terms of nature. Among us is the bad one, the one with strong qualities and the evil soul, and among us is also the good one, the one with a broad vision and a bright, balanced soul. We have always been like this. We differ from each other in many things. Perhaps the most bad and abnormal of these differences in our history, which is full of tragedy, is that you kill your live-in mates and your life partner. And perhaps, indeed, it is certain that the murderous father, Chris Watts, is a very bad example of our well-known human models, where he was a murderer and a traitor at the same time. Our topic today is Chris Watts, who killed his family. Bring a cup of tea or your favorite drink and let's get started. This heinous crime is one of the most heinous crimes, which in turn shook public opinion in the United States of America. This crime occurred on August 13, 2018. Husband Chris Watts, his wife Shannon, and their two daughters, Bella, 4 years old, and Celeste, 3 years old, came to their home in Colorado after a short family trip. The next day, Shannon didn't show up at work as usual, which prompted her co-worker to ask for help and call the police immediately to check her condition. When police arrived at Chris Watts' family home, no one was found inside. But wife Shannon's phone and wallet were found inside the house. Husband Chris came home after a long day at work and found the police. After they were allowed to search the house, the police did not find any member of the missing family. After the husband underwent lie detector tests, because he was the only individual left before the police, he failed them. Watts was quickly arrested as a suspect. Chris quickly confessed everything to the police. After preliminary investigations, it turned out that Chris had strangled his wife, who was pregnant, and their two daughters to death, and hid the children's bodies inside an oil field near the house. He boldly buried them in a small hole, and buried his wife in a cemetery at his work site. The bodies of the victims were not found until several days after their disappearance. Police directed all search efforts towards the oil fields near Chris Watts' home after they suspected something was there. In investigations conducted by the police, it was found that Chris Watts had begun a new relationship with a woman other than his wife, and he was planning to separate from his wife, Shannon, as soon as possible. Experts believe that these marital disputes and difficulties were behind Chris Watts committing this heinous crime. After that, Chris confessed to his crime. He and his wife repeatedly discussed the issue of divorce. The couple had previously announced their bankruptcy after many difficult economic circumstances that affected the family and separated it. Killer husband Chris Watts made a detailed confession to killing Shannon after a verbal argument over the divorce order. During his outburst, he killed his wife. Enter his young daughter, Belle. Chris Watts tells her then to get away with his heinous crime that her mother is very ill. Immediately afterward, Watts carried the body of his wife, Shannon, and placed it in the back of his work truck. He left his daughters behind in the car seats. Then, after he finished preparing the wife's body, he went to them, strangled his daughters with a blanket, and took their lives one after the other. Chris Watts committed this heinous crime because of his differences with his wife, and because of his great desire to start a new relationship with another woman. Cheating husband Chris Watts was arrested and directly charged with murder. In a press interview with the killer's mistress, Chris Watts, the woman revealed that unknown behavioral changes had occurred in the husband's personality days before the crime. As a result of his heinous act, Chris Watts was fired from his job. He buried the bodies of his children at the residence of his former employer, who owns a hydrocarbon exploration company for which Chris Watts worked. As a result of this heinous crime, the murderous husband was sentenced to life imprisonment without the right to parole. He is still serving his sentence in federal prison in the state of Wisconsin to this day. This crime shocked and upset public opinion in the United States of America and was considered one of the most heinous crimes in the country's history. The Chris Watts crime, which is presented in the latest Netflix documentary, is not unique. There are many examples of people who have killed members of their family, whether they are their children or their partners. Scientists are trying to explain this phenomenon through several reasons, one of which may be enough to incite the killer and prepare him psychologically to commit the act. This step. If you got here, it means that you liked the video. Subscribe my channel for more.